Yeah. Like a model.
I mean, second.
There. Do that, like, secret ballot, but that's okay. Nobody will doubt.
The only one here. Well, not the only one, but.
The only one that can vote.
Oh, the only one that can vote. Yes, special.
I Thomas Brown, do swear that I was the Constitution of the United States, the states and the citizens thereof. My Thomas, so I will faithfully discharge the best of my ability, each come upon me as moderator according to the Constitution and the laws of the state. And then if you don't have any questions, we do the town manager or the fire chief, the article
I only have one,
of who? Town manager.
probably from the other.
Okay. Which housekeeping item is, we have to be, take a vote to allow the town manager to not to vote here and we have down to speak at the meeting to ask any questions.
Second.
In favor? Move on to the business of the special town meeting, which is Article 2. Fellow town vote to authorize the select board to expend up to $250,000 from the undesignated fund for down payments for the purpose of a new fire pumper by the select board of the authority and to enter a 7-year lease / purchase agreement for the remainder of the balance.
I'll move.
The board recommends yes as the budget.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion to approve Article 2 on the second. Diane, you have a question?
Question. I think it's a fairly simple one. I knew about this. Under the explanation, it says that the contract was signed with Specialty Vehicles to construct the tanker, but it didn't say when it was signed.
We signed it in March. We signed it in March
Okay,
of 2024.
2020.
okay, so we signed it March of 24. So this is the one that we had to do because if we waited too long, the price was gonna go up and up and up.
That is correct.
Then I'm fine.
That then we'll put the article to the vote of the attendees here. All in favor? Passes unanimously.
Yeah.
Need a motion to adjourn the special town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? We're out.
Thank you.
1 minute.
Is that a?
That was actually a little bit longer than that, because we started a little bit before.
Okay, well, then we'll otherwise call the regular select board meeting to order. To start with the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any adjustments to the already prepared agenda?
Yeah, I don't see a line item there for committee reports, but I got a school board meeting that. About stop line and weight limits.
Under business then, Bill?
Good.
Stoplight, you said?
Yes.
Okay, and wait limits. Okay, any other additions? Motion to approve then as amended.
So move. Second.
All in favor? So be it. Next item is a public hearing on a food truck application for Tropical Caribbean.
I provided the information in your packet, the dates that they'll be there. As I understand, they'll be the only truck / tent that would be there on those dates.
Any other comments from the public? None, we'll close the public hearing. Dan, you got committee report?
Yep.
Board report?
Okay, this was the Monday, September 15th school board meeting. Started off with the superintendent report. He talked about his first couple of weeks, how things turning out, pretty positive. He's been to, there were one school that he hadn't been to yet, and he'd been to pretty much all of the other schools. And then he did a shout out to the transportation department and realized, with everything that's going on and all the work that they've done, he thought that they were doing a pretty commendable job. Next up on the agenda was the finance report, and they talked a little bit about the budget, and I'll get a little bit more into that. We went to policy. First article, first read was an IHBAC, which was child fine policy. The only concern on that was the difference between a 504 versus an IEP plans, and that was answered. That was approved. And then the second read was academic honesty, and that was approved with one dissent. The next item was a motion to accept the FY26 budget. Bottom line is, they did a bunch of cuts. It was like about 240, 250-ish or so compared to the last one. And when everything was said and done, they were just shy of $1 million. During the discussion of the budget, the superintendent talked a lot about a third-party efficiency assessment. And there was lots of discussion on, well, where's funding coming from that? And he kind of said, yeah, well, we'll find funding. And there were board members that said, we need to, state where the funding is from. So he estimated about $25,000 for that. They added that into the budget. And then when the bottom line came in, they were just shy of $1 million. They said, well, let's cut that by $5,000 so that we can at least say that we have $1 million cut from the original original budget. So they did that, and that got approved. Let's see. Consent agenda items. There was computation and declaration of vote was approved. There was a nomination of Linda Dixon, finance director, salary of $146,000. There resignation of Gwen Bedell, the interim finance director. The new finance director coming in won't be here until I believe he said it was November. She's done November 15th. I think she's coming in a little bit after. I didn't get a name, but that salary is going to be $146,000 also. They took off the nomination of Dr. Michelle Zanakauskas. There was concerns about that. They didn't vote on that. And actually right after this, they voted to go into executive session to discuss that. And that was at 8:15 p.m. and they left at that point. That's pretty much all it was there. There's a lot of discussion on the budget, but that's it.
I'd like to make a couple additional comments on the school board budget. The increased reduction compared to the budget that failed on August 28th was a little over 200,000 reduction. Of that, 152,000 was using more fund balance. So it wasn't so much cost cutting as using more of their available equity, if you will. The school board has not produced any detailed fiscal year 25 results so far. There was a one-page summary which showed an excess of revenues over expenditures of $243,000. And I will note that that is after a negative variance of 700,000 in the system administration cost center. I also will point out that it appears that none of the 1,250,000 in the fiscal year 25 budget that was theoretically going to come out of the fund balance, it looks like none of that came out, that there was actually an excess of revenues over expenditures.
Right, that can't come out because they haven't finalized the audit yet. That audit is still ongoing and that audit has not finalized yet. That's why they can't touch any of that.
That doesn't compute, but okay.
Yeah.
The two aren't connected.
Okay, thanks, Dan. And Chip. Approval of the minutes from September 8th.
We have those?
Keep going. We're in there, about page 8 or 9. Right after the food truck.
Yeah, they're after
There we
the.
go.
Yeah.
Pieces.
While you all are reading, I move that we approve the minutes of September 8th as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion been made to approve as prepared or presented. All in favor of approval? Okay. Public comments. I'm sorry.
I think they wanted them removed or something was wrong.
No,
No, I don't think so. Public forum, does anybody have an item or a matter they want to bring before the board that's not already slated for discussion by virtue of it being on the agenda? Diane?
Diane Robbins Mocus. I didn't bring it up during the previous discussion because you were talking about committee reports. But I'm going to go back to the argument. We were forced into this union because it was supposed to reduce our administrative costs. All I'm seeing is administrative costs going up. And it appears that MLD now has a vice principal as well as a principal. So we just keep at, I mean, the last bill that I had that I paid, I don't have this one yet. 69%, 69% of what we pay goes to the school. We're paying, it appears, housing for the superintendent, cars for the superintendent, gas for the superintendent, insurance for the superintendent. I've negotiated and been in superintendents' hirings. That was not part of any negotiation when I sat on the school board. Everybody should pay their own housing. Kids should not go without books, go without things in school because we're paying for somebody's house when we already paid them an outrageous salary. And at some point, this is going to bubble up. People are getting fed up. Now, the taxes were not as bad, thank you, as I expected. I didn't fall off my chair when I calculated how much my taxes were going to be. But it is, when you compare our taxes to, say, Biddeford, Benefit's not even paying 69% of their taxes towards the schools. And they have their own high school and a Voc school. So it is utterly ridiculous that as a town, 69% of what people are paying for their taxes are going to the school, and the majority of it, I'm sorry, appears to be going to administrative costs. I don't think it's getting to the teachers, and I don't think it's getting to the kids. And I'm just concerned that at some point, this whole issue of the RSU is going to come up again. And to be quite honest, I hope it does, because I don't think that they're going to be able to bamboozle people in town like they did the last time.
Diana, just before you make comments, I would really dig into their budget, because the majority is not administrative. The majority is all the teachers' contracts. And that's a huge part of their budget, the administrative part. I agree with, about some of the things, but that's not a majority of what they're paying.
Let me make a
That's
correction.
by far.
The majority of what I see for increases, there's been huge increases for their HR, for the superintendent. Now we got a new vice principal. Those have nothing to do with teachers and nothing to do with kids. And I'm, to be quite honest, flabbergasted that we would pay for somebody's housing and their moving fees. You applied to come work here. You should move yourself. And you should have to pay your own housing. I don't go to work any place. I think I'm going to come to the town of Arundel and say, because I work for Park and Rec, I want you to make my house payments. Oh, sorry, I don't have any. But you know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense with the communities that we live in, that percentage of it, or huge lumps of what's been increased in the budget over the last, say, 10 or 12 years has been towards these costs that we never paid for before. We were not paying housing fees. We're not paying for cars. We weren't paying for gas. We weren't paying large HR fees and the other, I think it's a finance position that they hired for. We're not that large of a school district when you look at some of the others and what they pay for theirs. Thank you. Oh, and the K through 8th grade, I believe, our cost is almost $15,000 per student.
Anybody else? Good, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention to the board that I did attend the Vinegar Hill event for the Chamber of Commerce, where Jen was recognized as the municipal employee of the year. And that was a pretty nice event, and it was definitely very well deserved.
All right.
Yeah, I saw you on the post on one of the pictures.
Yeah.
She didn't blow it though.
She did, she,
And it was her second round because they had come to the school.
yeah, yeah, she just got up and said, yeah, thank you. She wouldn't want to say much, but very well deserved.
Anybody else? Public forum? Seeing nothing else, then we'll move on to manager's report. Confirming planning board appointments. Good grief. Isn't that good?
Yes, in your packet, I provided the applications for Mike Nadeau and also for Scott Curtis. My thoughts on this is if you folks confirm my appointment, would be to allow Mike to replace Zach Shapiro's seat, which expires in 2028. And Scott Curtis's will take Marty Kane's position, which would expire in 2026.
Questions, folks?
Need a motion for that, the way we.
Yeah, you're gonna have to confirm my
Yeah,
my
make a
appointment.
motion that we confirm Michael Nuttall to replace Zach Shapiro and Scott Curtis to replace Marty Kane for the planning board.
You have a second for that? Chip, you have a comment?
A question, and I apologize, I don't remember the spelling of this person's name. We had an Arundel RSU board member with a similar, I don't know whether it's Neto. This gentleman, is he related to Aaron Neto?
No.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns, folks? Seeing none then. Motion has been made to appoint these two gentlemen as recited by Dan. All in favor? Yeah. Hereby appointed, and thanks for stepping up.
Just to
Yeah.
just to give you a little bit where we are, we sort of slowed down a little bit on the fire station renovation. I haven't received, or the addition, I have not received the new adjustments that were made on the print yet. When I get those, then both the fire chief and I have spoken about the changes. We both agree to them. So just be a matter of, once I get the thing, to begin to have another meeting with the board and the committee.
Have we reached out to them to find out what's taken?
Yeah, I have. I
Okay.
just haven't received it yet. That's all.
Next item there, Keith.
Yeah, the next item has to do with the actions that you folks took back in August to get some letters and written by the attorney to go out to various folks that have property that Clearview or Meadowwood? God, my mind is escaping me. That may have property that where the right of way is to be conveyed to the town. So we're still waiting. I talked to Leah on Friday. She's supposed to be sending me in a discussion with her on tomorrow at 2:30 to discuss the letters that will go out, as well as the notice that will be taken to the court, or to get, for lack of a better, to get recorded with the court. So that will be coming up here real soon. So
That letter to the court, that's in response to Mr. Thomas's posting on the property?
that is correct. Yeah, and it basically follows the authorizations you asked the town attorney to draft those appropriate responses based on that, as well as asking the Clearview Estate subdivision folks, the roads, to give us some ownership of those according to the 81 subdivision plan. So those should be going out here soon.
Okay, anything else on that, folks? And then moving on to the business items. First is the food truck authorization for Tropical Caribbean. Dates noted for there on the application, again, at Vinegar Hill Music Theater.
I make a motion, we approve the the application for Tropical Caribbean for 9/26, 9/27, 10/2, and 10/4 at Vinegar Hill.
Any further discussion? All in favor then? So approved. Next item here is RSU 21 budget validation process and budget meeting.
Yeah, just a couple things on this subject. The first, just to obviously to remind you all that the budget validation meeting will be on the 30th at, is it KES, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it'll be at KES, and after that, it appears that whatever that validation vote is, that number will then be presented to the voters on November 4th. For final approval. Part of the discussion that we had an email chain between Dan and I that was going on relative to his thoughts or trying to come to grips with how does a change in the commitment do for or a change in the budget, I shouldn't say the commitment, a change in the school budget, how does it reflect on the collection of taxes? Should there be a reduction? If it goes down, should there be a reduction of taxes in the second issue billing in order to make up the difference? Him and I think, had various ideas or very opposed and views as relate to it. I placed mine on, and I'll let Dan weigh in on it as well. I placed mine on the statute, the RSU 20, the regional school unit statute on 1487, which indicates failure for the budget to get approved before July 1st, provides a number that was presented to the voters at that meeting prior to that July 1st vote as to what would be moving forward for the town to utilize that number for setting the commitment of taxes. I think from that point on, it's my view that the commitment of taxes, the setting of the tax rate, and the issuing of tax bills is covered by each municipality independent of what the school has or has not done in terms of approval of any budget. So my view is that if we follow the statute out, we've done our due diligence, we've committed taxes based on the numbers that were given to us and the approvals that provided us through statute to ensure that those numbers are the ones that we use. So in my view, I don't think we need to do anything else at this point in terms of returning funds through a billing change in second issue billing. I think the argument could be moving forward, if there is a surplus, if there's money that is set aside that we don't have to send to operate the school, that money would go into a fund balance account, and the budget board and the select board in their review of budgets could, if they so desire, take a portion of that undesignated fund balance and earmark it towards whatever they would like to do in terms of reduction to the school commitment that we make in the future. So I think there's ways to use it if that's the intent of doing it, but I don't think we need to do anything else with our commitment at this point to modify it, to change it, to make any changes in funding going back to a taxpayer as a result of what's happened so far.
Opposition?
I'm not sure it's an opposition. I'm just, what gives us the legality to put that in undesignated fund balance or undesignated, not undesignated fund, but.
Yeah, fund balance, yep.
Right, what gives us the right to do that? Because in Mandy's email, in reading her emails, boy, she makes an awful lot of sense. And the title that you discussed says nothing about what to do if later budgets is reduced, right? So now we've committed X amount. So now we're going to be collecting more than what our tax commitment is. What legally tells us that we can put this into that fund? Because
Well-
that title that you said says nothing about.
Correct.
that.
Anything in the RSU has nothing to do with commitment of taxes. That all falls within us. So that number, even though it may or may not be accurate, it was the number that we were able to approve and was given to us prior to July 1st. That's the number that we use. Now, to this date, they still haven't made a vote on whether their budget's approved or not. Our tax bills have gone out. So I guess to play it out, if we collect more, then we collect more, and then we have that discussion during the budget process as to what we would like to do with that, if we feel it warrants.
I just want to make sure that, let's say that this, on July, on the 30th, it passes, right? That's what's going to make the determination of what we send them is going to be more or going to be less than what it is today,
Whatever it is.
right? Doesn't matter what happens November 4th, but what happens on the 30th is what will make that determination on whether we start reducing the amount per month that we send them or not, right?
No, not necessarily. It has to be approved.
Right.
Right. If it does
It gets
not get-
approved on the 30th,
If it gets
Okay.
approved there, then goes to the voters on November
it
4th.
doesn't matter what happens on November 4th.
Well-
It's what happens on the 30th.
Well, then we revert back to July 1st, because July 1st is what the statute tells it that we set the rate on.
But doesn't the statute say the last approved?
July 1st. It still refers to July 1st, if you read the statute.
Keith, right, I spoke with Glenn Battelle, right, the prior finance director of the RSU. Right now, we are being billed 1/12 of the budget that was approved at district meeting, I think July 22nd. But failed at the end of August. And my reading of the statute that you cited says exactly that we set our mill rate based on the last budget approved at the district meeting and submitted for confirmation at referendum. It's peculiar language, but that's what it says. So we're getting billed right now, each month, 1/12 of that budget that was approved in late July. The difference between that budget and the one that is up for consideration later this week, or maybe it's next week, it is slightly over $200,000. So Arundel's share is 12.5%.
12.2% of that
Okay,
200,000.
so dollar amount wise,
No.
we're talking about $25,000. It's not. And then if you were to spread that out over the average tax bill, it's money, but it's not a significant dollar amount, in my opinion. I read the same email chain, and I wonder if we can talk about this after the district meeting and what happens at that. But I wonder if we could speak with our accountant and possibly set up either a board designated fund or a restricted fund to set that money aside and for us to explicitly say whether it's $2 or $200,000 that we will use that to reduce taxes in fiscal year 26. I'm sorry, 27. And if that's one approach to allay the concerns that the school board member raised and that Dan was talking about. I don't know why we couldn't put it in a restricted fund. We're not going to give it, well, let me rephrase it. I would object strenuously to giving the money to the RSU anyway, and they have no intention of billing us in excess of what their final budget is.
Can't do that anyways. We can't legally do that anyways.
Can't legally do which.
We have to give them what was approved. We can't give them more money than what was approved.
I know that, so I'm just saying, we set the tax rate according to the Maine state law. We didn't have any choice about it. We followed the law. So if there is in fact a positive variance where we are collecting more money than what we have to pay the school board, I don't know of a reason why our accountant couldn't advise us on either a board designated fund or actually restricted fund, rather than putting it in undesignated unassigned fund balance.
I appreciate your thoughts on that, but I don't think legally we can do that. I mean, we would have to go back to, I guess, to play out would be to go back to a town meeting and say, we want to earmark X amount of dollars for the school because we've collected more than we needed, and we want to give that back to them next year. We can't do that unless the voters provide us that authority to do so.
Okay.
But say it's $25,000. We know what we've set the commitment on, which is $6,549,663. If it's less than that, whatever that difference is, then we know that, and we can discuss that during the budget process
Okay.
to decide what we want to do with that.
Okay, drop the purpose of what I suggested and simply, I don't see why we can't have a designated fund balance. Call it whatever you want. That hasn't been approved by voters what we're going to do with it, but we just say we're going to set this money in a special bucket. And the budget board and town meeting next June will decide what we do with it.
We'll know what the bucket of money is. Yep.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure if we procedurally have to put it in a different account. But
And
we'll know, it'll be collected, and it'll be gaining interest for us, and we'll know what that number is. And we can present that to the budget board and select board, and you folks can make a decision on how you want to handle it moving forward.
I don't understand how this is different from any other department where we don't collect or we don't spend all the money that we've allocated in the budget. Like we didn't have everybody at the Public Works Department. We have excess there. That's why we got a fund balance. What in the world's the difference here? We don't have to do anything with that. I couldn't find anything in Title 36 that talks to this issue at all.
Correct.
Yeah. Mandy, in reading her email, made sense. I just wanted to make sure that we're not getting ourselves in trouble down the road by putting obviously, I'm sure it's the board's intent that we're gonna take this money and turn it back to at some point in time when we do
Yeah.
our budget,
Exactly.
next year. But I just want to make sure that financially, we don't get ourselves in trouble by putting this in a fund, in an account that it shouldn't go.
I guess one of the things you'd have to talk to is the auditors about that too, to find out what
Right.
they think is right. Diane, do you have a comment?
I'm going to try to be as respectful as I can.
We appreciate that.
Oh,
You are talking about money that does not belong to you. You are talking about money that belongs to citizens in this town that work hard. One, if we're paying 1/12 of the budget, once they've settled the budget, then we should be adjusting, which I'm sure you will, because they're not going to keep that 1/12. I've been on this board. I know what they do on the other side with money that they've over collected from towns. You never see it. We are also the only town, I believe, that receives any state funding in the RSU. I would suggest that once the budget has been done, that you take it back to the people in this town who voted on that budget. And you allow them to decide whether or not we put it in undesignated funds or whether you reduce the second half of our taxes. It's not your money. It belongs to the citizens in this town. And if anybody should be gaining any interest on any money that's been overpaid by the citizens of this town, it should be the citizens that have paid the money in. It shouldn't be the town that gains the interest in any account. It should be the citizens of the town that pay. This is why people are so fed up with government. Now, fortunately, we have a fairly good form of government because we still have a selectman. And I know there's been jokes about getting rid of it. And everybody said, yeah, hell's gonna freeze over first. But this is really the citizens of this town's money. And I know that it's a pain in the butt to bring it back to a town meeting to say, okay, they've lowered this amount of money. And here are the two choices. We can take the overpayment, put it in a separate account and put it towards next year's, or we can take that money and put it towards the second half of the tax bills. Because at the rate we're going, we're almost going to be at the second half of our tax bills by the time they get this budget straightened out, if it passes. But I'm begging you to understand that the money that's been paid in to pay for this school budget was paid by the citizens of this town. And it should not be going into the town's coffers. It should be going back to the people that paid it.
Go ahead, Chip.
Diane, I want to address your concern directly. I agree with you completely. The reason that I pointed out the relatively small magnitude of the difference between the July budget and this one that's coming up for a vote is that I didn't ask Keith, but I am pretty confident that the cost of changing tax bills would probably wipe out the relatively small savings. I don't disagree with your idea of having a town meeting to just say, here are your choices. If we were talking about, I'll throw it, if we were talking about 200,000 instead of 20,000, I think it would make much more sense.
But for some people in this town, they
and
don't care if it's 200 or 20.
okay, and that's fair enough. The other comment I would make is that although Keith says that we cannot make a legally binding commitment to use whatever that overage is to reduce next year's taxes, I can't speak for anyone else on this side of the dais, but that's most certainly what I want to do with it.
It'll go back to the citizens, Diane, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And the least amount of cost, as he's pointed out, is going to be
Right.
to use it next year.
My concern is that you are making that decision,
That's what we get paid to do.
but you're not getting any input aside from me, from the people who are paying those taxes. And I've seen an overage by towns before to the RSU that they didn't spend. We pay, because we get money from the state, we pay a disproportionate portion of those funds. And they were not willing to let any of it go. I don't want to pay them 1 red cent more,
But
but I want.
we're not paying them more.
No, I'm not saying you are. What I'm saying is, I really feel that since this was a vote of the people and they thought that's what the budget was going to be, that they should be the ones to make the decision. It's only my opinion.
Thank you for it.
Find a lot of people in town that had the same opinion.
The only other thing I have left in this discussion is that we have the warrant for their budget validation meeting that needs your signature. So I'll send it on down. I don't think you have any way not to sign it. I
No.
think you have to sign it on behalf of us, of the town.
I'm sorry, what is this warrant?
It's their warrant, the ballot,
Town meeting.
budget validation warrant for their next meeting.
Oh, the RSU district meeting.
Correct.
Yeah.
You decide the people who appointed to the.
No.
Okay.
Okay, then move on to the next item, which is Bill with some concerns, stoplight and weight limits.
Yeah, I travel Hill Road quite a bit, pretty regular. And I'm seeing a lot of trucks over the 15-ton limit. And I see a lot of trucks that are like 200 pounds under the 15-ton limit. I'm wondering if we ought to reduce it to 10-ton. And also ask the deputy sheriff to keep an eye on that a little bit closer. I see trailer trucks in there all the time. I see triaxle dump trucks loaded all the time. I think we ought to look into it.
Bill, can you help me out? Where is the line from a 10-ton truck to a 15-ton truck? Just an example or two. In other words, what kind of vehicle is under 10 tons and what kind of vehicle is over 10 tons? The reason I'm asking is I go up there with some regularity too, and the day the bridge on 35 closed or the day after, I noticed 3 times as many commercial trucks on Hill Road as I've ever seen.
Most 99% of your dump trucks are over 10 ton.
Okay.
And your trailer trucks are obviously well over 10 ton.
Any 18-wheeler, a container truck, you mean?
Some are under 10 ton, but they can go either way depending what they're hauling.
Okay. Because I was surprised that the line to get off Limerick Road on 111 was longer than I had ever seen it. And instead of being 3/4 cars and 1/4 trucks, it was at least half trucks and bigger than what I had seen previously. I'm sorry, that's a long-winded way of saying I agree with you.
Go ahead, Bill.
Do you know what the weight limit is on the Lyman end of the Hill Road? I thought we had coordinated, so the weight limit was the same on both ends.
Lyman used to be 10 ton.
Yeah,
Now I don't even see a sign on the Lyman end.
Yeah, I don't either. I travel that road all the time and I don't recall seeing a sign there. I'll pay attention. I go there like almost every weekend I travel that road, so I'll look and pay
Yeah.
attention just to see if there's.
because I thought,
You should be able to tell you. You should be able to call the town of Lyman. I got it.
Yeah, what I've experienced in the past is enforcement's a problem. If you don't have scales and out there and the people know how to do that, you
Yeah.
can't enforce. That's been an issue. The state police used to have a unit doing that, but I haven't seen them around.
They still do.
Do they? Okay.
We've been very fortunate. As truckers, they haven't been around very much around here,
Uh-huh.
but, they're still doing it.
Yeah. Okay. And just something on a stoplight too?
Yeah. With the Route 35 being shut off, for 6 or more months, I'm wondering if we should ask the state to put one of them temporary lights, either at New Road 111 or Limerick Road 111. But with the additional traffic, it's a nightmare getting out of either one of those roads as it is. With the additional traffic, it's gonna be a lot worse.
Going down my road too, they're going down Thompson Road. Cause they're coming down from the other end.
Yep.
And they're going down, they're taking the first road, which would be the one that heads down to Thompson to 111.
Perkins Lane.
Perkins Lane.
Perkins Lane.
Yeah, I haven't seen extra traffic on Thompson Road. I'm surprised I haven't seen it.
Maybe they don't go by your house because you don't.
Well, I can
pay
see
them to-
Thompson Road
Yeah.
right out to the field.
Oh,
I
yeah.
see it all the time. I haven't noticed. I've been. paying
Yeah,
attention.
yeah, those aren't designated detours. I think what you're finding is that folks are finding ways around that now, as a result of, they don't want to go and get on
Way down
95
Pike.
to go anywhere, to go around that detour. So they're looking at those roads. So, I think Phil makes two good points on the weight limit piece as well as the light piece, and we'll reach out to the state and see if we can get a temporary light, at least put someplace. Maybe that will help us a bit.
That weight limit, is that our weight limit or is that by?
Well, again, Hill Road is town road.
No,
So
Hill Road, right?
Right.
Hill Road,
Yeah.
Hill Road is a town road.
Yeah, so that we played. that
Yes,
weight limit.
you place those limits. I think what we want to do is in concert with Lyman. So we'll make some calls up to Lyman and see what they're doing. Obviously, this board can make an adjustment to that weight limit if you so desire. And then I think Tom brings up the other piece, the enforcement piece. Who's going to enforce it? I don't believe our sheriff's department, who patrols us, has any enforcement over the weights. They're gonna have to bring the state police in and, so on and so forth. So.
Is there an issue with the Hill Road as to, why is that posted?
Well, I think I'm sure it was posted, and maybe, you folks may have a little more understanding of it, but I'm sure that Hill Road got posted for 15-ton simply because we wanted to avoid having heavy trucks roll over that road when you had you had Route 35 and you had 111 that they could access a lot more effectively than going over a town road, which then will ultimately be responsible for repairing and rebuilding. So I think that was the cusp of it. Phil, am I wrong, or is that pretty much it?
I would want to make one comment about the location of, I fully support Phil's idea of a temporary light. I think we should push strongly for Limerick Road, simply because I go both on Limerick Road and New Road. I've not seen an increase on New Road. But as I said, and it was earlier in the afternoon than I usually see traffic stacked up on Limerick, and it was very substantial.
I see it every day.
Well,
Behind 50.
Yep.
I've lived here a long time, I've never seen it as bad as it was this summer.
Yep.
I know the Curtis Road is pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Never seen it so quiet. I love it.
Route 35 is very quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a payable warrant, just a payable warrant.
Yes.
Yeah, so move.
Move to approve. All in favor? So approved. Anything else, anybody?
Motion to
Not-
adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
7:53.
Have a second?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? We are out.
Thank you.